Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. And welcome back as we continue to showcase those reports so instrumental in protecting the coastline and some of the inner cities from the coastline right here in our area. I'm Martin False. Let's go to a report by Dwayne Bourgeois. We've seen Dwayne in our program many times, but he addressed the CPRA.
Thank you, Reggie. Next, we have Dwayne Bourgeois with the North Lafourche Levee District. But before we get to that, before I forget, I want to make sure that I thank Inga Kitchen and Debbie Audigle for putting this on. Thank y'all very much. A round of applause. Ladies really work hard for the board, and they put everything together. And also, I'd like to mention the CPRA people in attendance: Daniel Deere, Greg Grandy, James McGinnis, thank you for coming, James. And our legal, Chris Barnes and Jules Hebert from Terrebonne Parish. And Chris Barnes, thank y'all for being here. With that, Dwayne, please proceed.
All right, thank you, Artie. I'm Dwayne Bourgeois, Executive Director for the North Lafourche Levee District. And I just have a handful of slides just to follow up on some of the stuff that Reggie was talking about. As you mentioned, Marquandre de Gulf does come into the North Lafourche Levee District, basically from La Rose, crossing from the South Lafourche system with a future closure in the GIWW, we call the East Closure, and it moves up to, well, that's the debate. We're trying to get it as close to the Upper Barataria system as we can, and we're working towards that. The Corps is working with us on that as well. And so we're trying to tie those two big federal levee systems together. We've been working our reaches on this side, start from the GIWW as reach 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're in various stages of design and trying to work through some very, very complicated oil and gas fields that are in that area. And it seems to be the pipeline capital of the world, and so we're just trying to find our way through that with minimal impacts to those type of things and minimal impacts to wetland impacts of that nature. So we do have some work that we've done initially on it. This is Reach 2, some work that we did with some funding we had through from ourselves and through CPRA. And we're working on other reaches, currently trying to get to bid on Reach 3, and then I think we have Reach 1 under design as well. Right now the Corps has Reach 1 under design, so we're working on that. But as Reggie mentioned, you know, Ida put us through a lot of a test showing what happens when all of that water in the back basin gets moved around. As he said, they had a 140 mile an hour north wind. That's one serious kootenai. If anybody's local, they know what a kootenai is. Except it wasn't cold. It was a hot 140 mile an hour wind. But the more we do those things, the more this system comes online. And you see, like he showed those slides in Pointe-aux-Champs and the aerials of Pointe-aux-Champs Wildlife Management Area, where you now have grass where there once was water. That means there's less water in that back basin to slosh around. So all of this is self-improving. But in the meantime, we've had several other projects that we have to contend with. And so I just wanted to go real quickly through a couple of slides and some projects that we're working on. It's not on the Marquandre alignment, but it's stuff that need to be done while we're waiting for the Marquandre to knock the storm surge down, which is measured in feet, versus rain, which is measured in inches. So this is still pretty important stuff because we get to have that. This is reach D2 and D3, excuse me, on the west side of Bayou Lafourche below Lockport. And this is Reach B, another one of those reaches in that section. This work we've done, again, this is working with funding from our local constituents who've taxed themselves for flood protection, as well as additional funding we've received through CPRA. And also Raceland Prairie area. This is one of the areas that these levees are holding back water 24/7. And so very important levee systems for us, tough to work after the fact, where you're working through where people have already developed. And so you're sort of threading the needle to try to provide flood protection without encroaching on additional property. And so that becomes a bit of a challenge. And this is also a project that I wanted to talk about. Most of the funding came from Go Mesa. This is why everything we're doing to improve our Go Mesa is very important from a flood protection point of view. It's one of the few recurring sources that is eligible, or where levee district work is eligible for receiving the funding. So this is the Thibodeau Lockport Bayou Blue project area, Hollywood Canal. It's a combination of a pump station and a bunch of gates that basically allows us to deploy the gates in the event that we have a storm coming, and then start to pump and use a big natural basin together. We've got a lot more projects, but I didn't want to take too much time on that. So that's the end of my presentation, and I think we have to load another presentation for Nic in the court, right?
Stay tuned. We'll have more. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. All right, we now hear the report of Nic Matherne. Let's listen in as he also addressed the CPRA.
Nic, the next presentation will be Nic Matherne with the South Lafourche Levee District. Mr. Matherne.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nic Matherne, Executive Director of the South Lafourche Levee District. We're gonna PDF this presentation. I'm having some difficulties with PowerPoint, so we'll miss a video I had for you guys at the end, but I'll talk you through some of the challenges we're facing. So, as was mentioned, part of our levee system is incorporated along a portion of the Morganza to the Gulf alignment, and so we've been doing some preparatory work to advance the improvements of those portions of the alignment. And so a little look at what we're facing in the northern part of South Lafourche. Here's a shot from just after Hurricane Ida in 2021. You're looking at section F of our levee system, which is partially made of earthen levee, and that then connects into a flood wall that was partially built by the Corps of Engineers, improved at one point by the South Lafourche Levee District. But the flood wall in this area is to an elevation of +11. The earthen levee here is to +13. Ultimately, we're authorized as part of Morganza to the Gulf in this area to a +16. So we still have some work to do in the future, but for now, we're very proud of the advancements that we've made. Obviously, you can see here the extreme flooding and mud that was washed in from Hurricane Ida on the outside. And although there's plenty of blue roofs on the inside, no flood waters actually got into homes or businesses, which we're very proud of. Another portion on the opposite side of Bayou Lafourche that's part of the Morganza to the Gulf alignment is section C North, that follows along the Intracoastal Canal and then moves southward, ultimately tying into Reach L of Morganza to the Gulf that Reggie just showed a few minutes ago. We've been working with all South Lafourche Levee District funding to improve this section levee to a +13. We're about complete with that work. In the next month or so, we'll be wrapping that up. And as we complete this, our employees go back and seed the levees that have been improved to facilitate grass growth there. So this levee section is very impressive. Just south of where we tie into Morganza to the Gulf, section C South, we've been working with FEMA to repair some damages from Hurricane Ida. So we're adding 2 feet of material on the flood side toe of our levee system, where we had debris wash up after Hurricane Ida. When we removed that debris, a lot of that debris removal operation caused some damage to the flood side toe. And so FEMA is reimbursing us to add 2 feet of material back to the flood side here. Another section back along section F of the levee system, you can see that flood wall I just mentioned along the intracoastal here on the left side of the picture. We've utilized $1 million of Go Mesa funding along with 1.1 million of our own funding to install a vessel impact barrier to protect that investment of the flood wall along the GIWW. We're wrapping up that project right now, should be complete and have the contractor totally off-site within the next few weeks. And this was a series of pile clusters to protect that flood wall from impact of vessels, not only from a storm, but just daily traffic that's along the GIWW every day. Further south, where we've had some overtopping, that's not Port of Morganza, that just wanted to update the board on how we're utilizing state funding. We've been utilizing $500,000 of Go Mesa funding to improve and lift this road that's crosses Section D north of our levee. This is on the Loop facility, Louisiana offshore oil port. And so the levee on either side of here is up to a +16. We're using some Go Mesa funding as well as our own funding to lift this road to a +18 to anticipate future lifts that we'll be seeing in the coming years in this area. We did have a little bit of overtopping here from Hurricane Ida, so now we've typically put HESCO baskets across this road, so this is a more permanent and more reliable solution for the future. A little bit further north, another area where we had some overtopping from Hurricane Ida, we're utilizing $2.3 million of Go Mesa funding. Oh, that was another video that was going to be shown here. Plus another $1.5 million of surplus funding and $500,000 of our own dollars to stockpile material from these nearby borrow pits along Section E north of our levee system. So we're ultimately going to be raising this section to a +16, where it was overtopped at a +14 for Hurricane Ida. Then further back north, this is just south of where Dwayne pointed out that our system is going to connect to the North Lafourche Levee District across the GIWW with the GIWW East floodgate that's currently in the design process right now. And that's going to cut off the intracoastal in times of storms from flooding our area through that inlet. So this is just south of where that connection is going to tie into our system. From North Lafourche Levee District. You know, my predecessor was notorious for saying that dirt is better than air. I think everybody in this room has heard that several times, and I think we proved that in Hurricane Ida, regardless of what the Corps thinks. Sorry, Colonel and Lacey, but this is an example here of this project where we've proven that what we've done in South Lafourche has worked, and now we're really no longer in what I've kind of called firehouse mode, where we've been frantically getting more and more elevation. We've got a very comfortable amount of elevation now, and so we have the luxury of now going back and stabilizing a lot of that work that we've done over the years.
Stay tuned. We'll have more. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality. We continue our reports on the CPRA. Once again, Gordon Dove, the chairman of that important, panel of people that we put together over the years to protect and to serve here in the area. Also, Tony Alford representing the governor, Jeff Landry.
And so this is a great example, utilizing $1.7 million of GOMESA funding, $100,000 of surplus, and $2 million of local funding to raise this stability berm on the protected side that at most points was to a minus 5 feet below sea level for our stability berm. We're bringing it up to sea level. So while that in itself doesn't maybe sound so impressive, when you compare it to where we were at a -5, when you go out and look at this project, it's very impressive and makes me very confident for the future and how well we'll be able to perform. On the southern end, where we had some more overtopping, again, we got 16 foot of storm surge on the southern part of our system from Hurricane Ida, and our levees were at 16. Some places fortunate enough to have 18 feet, but mostly we were at our limit for Hurricane Ida, and in a couple places with the wave run up, we were overtopped. So here we're utilizing for Section A East on the eastern side of our system, $3.4 million of GOMESA funding, another $3.6 million of surplus. Well, we'll be raising this section of levee another 1.5 feet. We'll be going to 19.5 feet on the eastern side. And the same thing for A West. We'll be using about $4.5 million of GOMESA funding that was approved in this year's annual plan to lift that section of levee in the southernmost portion to 19.5 feet. And the last most critical part that I want to talk about is, again, along the Morganton to the Gulf alignment, we currently have a floodgate to a +13 in La Rose, the Ted Gisclair floodgate. Now, we've had some success in the past with our Ted Gisclair lock, our Lee Ontario lock in Golden Meadow, where we had an original floodgate that was built in the 80s, and we came and added a second floodgate on the back end to create a lock complex. And that has allowed us to let commerce continue southward to Port Fourchon, which handles a fifth of the nation's oil and gas, almost 100% of Gulf of Mexico activity. And so in the northern end, we're looking to repeat that success by adding a second floodgate on the inside of our system in La Rose to be able to allow us to lock vessels in and out. A prime example was just this past weekend, which was a video that was very telling. I was hoping to be able to show. We just with a 5-inch rainfall on Thursday, a little bit more rain on Friday, a tropical storm that hit southern Mexico over the weekend, we had about a 2-foot differential between the water in Bayou Lafourche inside of our system and the GIWW just to the north of us. So where we normally, when we have to close our floodgate in La Rose, normally we can open 6 times a day, every 3 to 5 hours. We were only able to open once every 24 hours. And when we did, the number of vessels we had forced us to have it open for about a half an hour. So for a half an hour, this is from Friday morning, we had 5 vessels going out, 4 vessels coming in. And along with that, we had 2 feet of water coming in to our system for about a half an hour each morning throughout the weekend, to where we do have a siphon system that helps us to prevent flooding in Golden Meadow. Because if the water level in Bayou Lafourche goes above about 0.4 feet, we start seeing water on the road in Golden Meadow. Yesterday afternoon, I was just trying to help a family figure out how to stop their property from flooding, where historically they've drained to the bayou. Now that culvert that runs under Highway 1 is allowing the bayou to drain into their yard. And so they're having the opposite effect of what they were originally intending. So because of the water that was coming in La Rose throughout the weekend, we had to have some of our operators manning the pump stations from 6 in the morning to 9 p.m. just to handle the water that was let in for 30 minutes in La Rose to make sure that we don't flood the town of Golden Meadow. So that just shows how critical this project is. The current cost estimate is about $36.5 million. We've got $5 million of our own funding dedicated to this project. CPRA in the past has dedicated $5 million. We're working with the Lafourche Parish government, who's seeking a hazard mitigation grant program funding through FEMA for another $15 million, which leaves us about $11 to $12 million short. Now, I know Chairman Dove attempted to get that money for us this year. Ultimately, I think a lot of us had some frustrations with capital outlay this year and surplus dollars, and so we weren't successful this year. But we're going to continue to fight and make sure that this gets done as quickly as possible, because preventing our people from flooding is also preventing commerce from flowing to Port Fourchon, and I think that affects all of us in the future. So Again, this is part of Morganza. We're happy to be a cooperating partner, and this is a critical piece of infrastructure that we're pushing to get done as quickly as possible. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and board, for your attention. And I think next we'll have the Corps of Engineers give an update on their progress.
Thanks for joining us. More reports during the week here at HTV. Also catch it on Facebook and YouTube.
Barker Honda is celebrating the 4th of July now with amazing prices on every new and certified pre-owned Honda in stock. With financing from only 1.49% APR and payments on new Hondas from only $259 a month on Accord. Celebrate your independence from high prices with Barker Honda and save big. And remember, it's better at barkerhonda.com.